Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Karen Sipple. I am the Managing Director of the Maryland Women's Business Center, and this is our Founders Rising information and learning session. I want to take a moment here before we dive into the program details, and I want to acknowledge something. All right. If you're here today, there's a really good chance that the past few months or even the past year has kind of been a lot to handle. Maybe you got rift. Maybe your contract ended. Maybe you've been applying to a lot of jobs and you're not getting the answers that you're hoping for. Or maybe there's been this quiet voice that you've been gradually listening to that maybe this is the moment to finally do the thing that you've been thinking about for years. So, whatever brought you here today, whether it's that question, that uncertainty, that little instinct inside of you saying, maybe this is the time, I just want to tell you that you're here in the right place, and you're also in really good company. Okay, so let me tell you a little about who we are and what we've built for you. So first of all, the Maryland Women's Business Center, we will refer to ourselves as MWBC. We've been serving entrepreneurs across the Maryland area since 2010. We were founded to support women-owned and minority-owned businesses, and we've grown into a program that serves all entrepreneurs that are seeking to build something, whether it is a brand new idea or a business that's been running for a few years and you've hit a speed bump and you just need some assistance to get over that barrier. We serve clients throughout Montgomery, Prince George's, Frederick, and Howard counties. And on average, we work with about 1,500 clients per year. We're funded in part by the SBA, and we're also supported by a number of county and local partners. You can see this array of logos at the bottom of the screen. And it's because of that support that we're able to offer our services either at a very low cost or for free. So I wanted to share that history with you just to demonstrate that we're not a pop-up, we're not a side project. We've been working with small business owners for 16 years. We've kind of seen it all, and there's not much that you can say that will surprise us at this point. And Founders Rising is a program that we're really proud of. So I want to take a minute and tell you why we're so proud of Founders Rising. So let's kind of start with the basics. What is this? Founders Rising is it's a 12-week program, and it's been designed specifically for people who are sitting right where you are now, right? You might have an idea or have a problem in mind that you've said where you're thinking this is something that I think really needs to be solved, and I'm the person to solve it. You've got something in your mind that you're interested in turning into an actual business. Or you've already created something but haven't really had the time to devote your energy to really focusing on it. The key here is that you probably are feeling a little bit stuck or a little unsure. You might not know where to start, but you do know that you don't really want to figure this out alone, right? So that's what we built this for. Every week that you're with us in Founders Rising, you will learn from an expert in a specific area of business, things like strategy, marketing, finance, legal, accounting. And every week, you'll complete an assignment that adds another piece to your actual business plan. So by the time you finish the program, you don't just have knowledge, you have an actual document, something real that you can hold in your hands. So we created Founders Rising specifically, let's go back for a second. We created Founders Rising specifically with displaced federal workers and contractors in mind. And we did this because, well, one, there's a huge need, right? So more than 25,000 people just in Maryland have lost their federal jobs since January, February last year, right? So there's a massive need. But on top of that, we did this because we know that the skills that you've built in your federal career, the discipline, the systems thinking, the ability to navigate complex problems and organizations, these are founder skills. You just might not have had the reason to kind of flex those muscles in this way. But this program, it gives you that reason and the structure to put it all together. All right, so now let's go to the next slide. I think it's really important to be clear about what you might be thinking about committing to, okay? So I want to run you through the main components of this program. So first of all, live sessions. Live learning sessions led by experts. They take place every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to noon. And this starts August 26th. You'll also have weekly assignments. You'll want to plan for about 3 hours out of class, give or take, depending on the week. Like I mentioned earlier, these assignments, they build into your actual business plan. So this isn't theory. These are actual assignments that you'll be able to use to help you really crystallize different elements of your business. You'll also get 5 one-on-one counseling sessions with one of our advisors. They'll work with you specifically on your business. And remember, this is not generic advice. You'll get to talk about questions and issues that are specific to you and your business. Now, I do want to be clear, this is a real commitment. Oh, the one thing I do want to add also, I missed this one, is networking events. So we want to get you out of your comfort zone, out of your home office, wherever you are. And we're really going to encourage you to participate in 2 networking sessions during the course of these 12 weeks. Because community builds in different ways. It builds here in this cohort, and then it also builds out at different events. But again, this is a commitment, right? So I mentioned you can expect about 3 hours per week outside of those 2-hour live learning sessions. But this kind of commitment also builds real results. Okay. Let's keep going. I do want to show you just a peek at what a sample week looks like. All right. So for instance, in one of our early modules, we focus on really thinking about the problem that you're seeking to solve and whether it's a viable concept. So, it's great to be mission oriented, but can you make money solving this problem? Okay. So this particular topic is led by Tamika Montgomery. She works with mission-driven leaders to help them identify key insights and data that help them make better decisions. She also happens to be a member of our board, and she's really fabulous. So the live learning element is really key, but the work that you do on your own is also really important. So we align a homework assignment with each module that connects what you've just learned in that live session with a section of your business plan. And each of these assignments is applicable to your business. It's not theory, it's not busy work, it's really relevant. And then 5 times throughout the program, roughly every other week, you should be meeting with your business counselor. This is where we encourage you to perhaps start with like a themed topic or question, like the one that you see here. Is my business viable? And am I the right person to build it? And then you might segue into other pressing topics that are really kind of on your mind that particular week. But this is a chance for you to have a really tailored advisory session with one of our expert counselors. Okay. So I just shared with you kind of what the program includes. And that's the nuts and bolts of it, right? What are the things you have to show up to, and what are the key components? But I also want to share with you kind of what it feels like to be part of this cohort. Also, in a few minutes, you're going to hear from a couple of our alumni, and they're really going to be able to share with you what it feels like to be part of it. But what I'll say with you, what I'll say from my perspective and from my team's perspective is that one of the things that we heard over and over from our first Founders Rising cohort is that the thing that they didn't expect was for the community piece to matter as much as it did. So they signed up for the curriculum, for the learning, but they ended up staying for the people. So I want you to really kind of sit there and kind of sit with that and think about that. Your cohort is going to be a relatively small group. We are looking at 40 people. And those 40 people are going to be navigating the same transitions, the same challenges at the same time. And so it's really powerful to be able to navigate entrepreneurship, which can be really tough. Just gonna be honest with you, it can be really tough and it can be really lonely. Um, but you're going to have a group of 39 other people who are navigating those pathways right at the same time as you. And then that shared experience, that shared context, it kind of creates something that's hard to replicate. Um, it creates real accountability. Can't tell you how many times in our first cohort, people would message each other and say, I got to go work on X. Does anyone want to go meet at a coffee shop and just kind of work side by side together? Just knowing that there's somebody else there with me. You're doing your thing and I'm doing my thing, but we're kind of working in parallel in the same space. That can be, incredibly helpful. Um, and I do want to say, this WhatsApp group that I mentioned here on the slide, this is no small thing. Okay. Um, this group, I laugh because they still blow up my phone like every day. But these are the people that are going to be your sounding board, at 11 p.m. at night when you're panicked about something and you're second guessing your business idea, or you've had a tough day, trying to make sales calls and it's not working. These are the people who are going to talk you off the ledge. And I saw Bridget react because she knows exactly what I'm talking about. She's one of our alums who's going to be talking with you guys in a minute. These are going to be your people. Um, so the program is structured, and that's what I kind of already walked you through. But I do want to be clear that a major piece of this is that you won't feel like while you might be building your business alone, you're not doing it alone, if that makes sense. Okay. I'm going to take a break here and I'm going to turn things over to my colleague Dahlia, who will take us through the next couple of slides.
All right. Thanks so much, Karen. For folks, I see a few familiar names in the chat, but for the folks who don't know me, my name is Dahlia Joseph. I'm one of the program managers at the Maryland Women's Business Center, and have had the pleasure to work with the very first cohort. And so, yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about our application process and what we're looking for as we're reviewing applicants. So the first thing that we are looking for is that you have an idea. Now, it is okay if it's a rough idea or not even like a fully well thought out idea. We just want to know that you are thinking about something and you are trying to build something. Secondly, we're looking for, like I said, that you've given it some thought. It is okay if you haven't taken any actual steps yet. And it is also okay if you have taken a first step, whether that is you've created your business plan or you've, have thought around your like marketing and things like that is okay. Um, Also, we want to know that you're open to feedback and willing to do the work. Like Karen said, each of the sessions per week are 2 hours in length. And then outside of the session, it'll probably be around 3 hours of work on your own and assignments. So we want to be sure that you are willing to do the work and then also to open to feedback because you are going to be working one-on-one, not only with our business advisors, but also the peers in your group as well who can provide feedback. And then lastly, we're looking that you are open to commit to showing up every week. Yeah, being present and in the moment. Karen will share a little bit about the sessions, but the sessions are a combination of in-person sessions and virtual sessions. And so we want to ensure that when you are with us, that you are fully there and, participating and giving your all. Now, how do you make your application stand out? So, first thing first, tell us your why. What is the problem that you are trying to solve? And also, why is your solution the answer to that problem? Uh, be specific about your idea and who it serves. So, who are your ideal customers? And then lastly, the number one reason why applications don't move forward is vague answers. So we want to make sure that your answers are clear. Again, it is okay if it isn't like a fully thought out idea, but we just ask for clarity in your answers. All right. So here is our timeline. So applications open today, surprise. And then our applications close on June 26th. Our review period will take place from July 1st to July 30th. And then we plan to send out program invites on the week of August 3rd. And then our program will kick off with our kickoff event on August 26th. Now, I do want to share that there is a program fee for this program. It is $149, but if you need some flexibility, please reach out to us. We do have some need-based exceptions that are available for the program as well. So yeah, please reach out to us. All right. So I want to open the floor to if anybody has any questions about what Karen shared or what I shared. And I will also keep an eye on the chat as well. I see some questions coming in.
Yep. So, all right. Thanks, Dahlia. So I know that we've been getting a bunch of questions in. I am going to do my best. I think we're running well on time. So I'm going to do my best to answer as many as we can here. Some of these, a bunch of these questions really seem focused on kind of eligibility criteria. So a number of questions that I've seen here are asking around, do I need to be a past government worker? If I'm not a federal worker who's been displaced, am I automatically disqualified? Um, so this particular program is for former federal workers and contractors. I did see also a question about NGO. If you were part of an NGO and were affected by government funding cuts, then yes, this is a place for you.
Um,
Essentially, if former federal worker, NGO or nonprofit, or government contractor who was affected by a lot of the changes that we've been seeing since, January, February-ish of last year, then this is a place for you. Okay. Hopefully
Karen,
that answers the question. Uh,
Karen, it might be helpful to give an example of the contractor example. So, for example, if you worked at an NGO and you had a contract with USAID or something, another agency, that counts as well.
Right. So I do also see some questions about one person asked about unplanned retirement and things like that. Um, Early retirements, those kinds of things, again, as long as it was kind of precipitated by the changes that have been happening with the federal government, yes, this applies to you as well. I do see a question here from Joe asking, is the program open to folks based in other parts of the DMV, or is it only open to Maryland residents? So Joe, it is, we serve clients specifically in Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Frederick, and Howard. And so you do need to be based in one of those counties. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't receive services from MWBC. You can still, if you do not reside in one of those four counties, you can still participate, for instance, in our other training programs. If you perhaps Dahlia or Martha, if you could put a link in the chat to our training calendar, we do offer classes, training classes, workshops, mostly online. Some of them have to take place in person. We do offer other training classes throughout the year on a variety of topics. Anybody from anywhere, literally around the world, can register for those and join us for those. And the vast majority of those classes are available for free. Um, okay, the Tara also looks like she had a question about residency requirement, considering a relocation. Got it. So Tara, your question maybe sounds a little more specific to your situation. If you are currently a resident, oh, I thought you were, that was Tracy, not Tara. Okay. If you are currently a resident of these four counties that we serve, then yes, you can apply. I think if you firmly have a plan to move out of one of these four counties, we should perhaps have a conversation if this is an appropriate program for you. Okay, trying to get through some more questions here. Marie had a question about, can you tell us more about how Founders Rising will differ from the 4-week entrepreneurship course? Okay, so Marie, it sounds like you participated in our Elements of Entrepreneurship course. So for those of you who are not familiar, on a quarterly basis, we offer a class called Elements of Entrepreneurship. It's 4 weeks. In short, Marie, this is much bigger. Much bigger. We go into much more depth. We have a new expert every week, a different topic that we focus on every week. So you're going to hear directly from an accountant, from a panel of lawyers, from Tamika, who I highlighted earlier in the presentation. Business operations. There's a whole curriculum kind of suite of topics that we have over the course of these 12 weeks. But again, it's not just the learning, it's the community that you're going to develop. You're going to be going through this and doing all those assignments. They're going to build towards your business plan. So think of it as Elements of Entrepreneurship is kind of like the basic building blocks, and this is taking you kind of 2 or 3 steps further. All right. Adrian had a question about, is it appropriate for someone who has started an LLC that's new within a year? Yes, that's perfectly fine. We do have a slight preference. I will be honest. We do have a slight preference for those who have not yet registered their business and are still kind of sorting things out. But early stage businesses, yes, you could still certainly apply. Is there a syllabus or topic list? I believe that we have a short list on our website. If we don't, we can share that as we can share a sample topic list as follow-up to this. Okay, I'll see if I can take a couple of more questions here. I think I answered this one from Rachel about, is it okay if you're past the idea stage? Yes, you can be in the idea stage or kind of be in the early stage. I think we have some more specifics written about this on our website. And Martha, perhaps if you can drop in a link to our Founders Rising page that into the chat, that may also help folks.
Karen, someone had asked a good question. Is the program also for state workers as well, not necessarily federal?
That question hasn't come up. I think if the other eligibility requirements that we have on our website apply, then yes. But whoever asked that question, if you could find a place to kind of note that in your application, that would be really helpful. All right, Dahlia, are there other questions that we want to get to? I know we do want to jump over to our alumni as soon as possible. Let's see. I see a question here about consulting practice. So we are industry and sector agnostic. The type of business that you want to start is your business. And so I'll tell you that in our previous cohort of Founders Rising, we had a ton of professional services consulting business owners. You'll hear from one of them in a few minutes when we turn over to the alumni. We also had product-based businesses, we had food products, things like that. Let's see. How long does it take to complete the application? It's not terribly long. Once we provide you with a link to it, and we'll also have that on our website live today, you'll see that a number of the questions are kind of demographic questions that we have to ask. And then there's, Dahlia, I'd say there's probably about maybe 8 questions that are kind of the tell us about your business, tell us about your ideas,
Mhm.
those kinds of things.
Yeah, I'd estimate around like 30 minutes for the application.
Yeah. But like she said, like Dahlia said, we really encourage you to be thoughtful.
Yeah.
3-word answers for those kind of business oriented questions, those are not going to be your friends. So do be thoughtful as you answer the application. Okay, I see a question here from Lisa about the application. So it will be live on our website. We will also have a QR code at the end of this slide presentation. So everybody here is kind of getting a little head start because you'll have access to that shortly. Okay, I think that we have gotten to most of these. Um, All right. Oh, the other thing I do want to mention, I think Dahlia did highlight this, but I do want to take a second to pay a little bit of attention to this because I do see a question a little bit about virtual versus in person. Um, and so about half of our sessions will take place in person and about half will take place virtually. And I see here in the chat that Lisa mentions that the website says the application will open on the 12th. That was our original plan. But yes, as Dahlia said, we are kind of having a soft opening for our application today. And yes, the folks here are kind of hearing about it first. Okay. Um, do keep the questions coming. We'll try to answer some more in the chat. But I do want to turn things over to, this is going to be kind of my favorite part. Um, let's I want to bring in a couple of our alums. I can, and Dahlia, if we can advance the slides one. All right, here we go. So I can talk about Founders Rising all day, but nothing I say is as powerful as hearing from the people who actually went through the program. So with me here today are 2 of the women who went through the first cohort of Founders Rising, which ran last winter. We had 20 people in that cohort, and Bridget and Manal, they were sitting exactly where you are sitting today. They had an idea. They had lots of questions. They might have had some self-doubts, but they applied anyway. And in the process, they built a community and they built real businesses. So Bridget Williams Simmons, she is the founder of Convergent Point Strategies, and Manal Amin is the founder of Phoenix Collaborative. Um, so Dahlia, why don't we drop the slide and let's try to spotlight Manal and Bridget. And you can spotlight me if you want. But ladies, we're just gonna have a conversation, okay? I think that it'd be really helpful for everyone here to hear from you all, um, what kind of brought you here and what the program has helped you with. Um, so I'm gonna start out with, and by the way, feel free, please, to introduce yourselves. Why don't we do that first, and then I'll kick things off with the first question. Bridget, do you want to go first?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here with you today. My name is Bridget Williams Simmons, and I'm the founder and principal of Convergent Point Strategies, which is an AI governance advisory firm. And so I was part of the reduction in force last year from the Department of Health and Human Services. And I am excited to have been an alumni or be an alumni of the Founders Rising program. We're number one. That's our motto. Thank
Hi, everyone. My name is Mina Lamine, and I started Phoenix Collaborative last year, which is a social impact business focused on young people in Silver Spring and Wheaton, Maryland. And we aim to expand opportunities in the out-of-school time space, especially for those youth that often don't have access to important opportunities in leadership, empowerment, innovation, sort of the gamut. I was a foreign service officer with the U.S. Agency for International Development until last July. And so my entire career has been internationally focused. And so I decided to do something super hyper local by starting this business. So I'm excited to be here as well. And yeah, chat with you all about what to expect and what we loved about it.
That's great. Okay. So that was kind of actually a nice segue to my first question, which is, what did your federal career give you that you didn't realize was an asset until you started building a business? And either one of you can take this, or both of you.
I can go first. Yeah. So I just mentioned that I was a foreign service officer with USAID. And so as a former diplomat, leading foreign assistance programs, I had a lot of experience and some things that Karen actually touched on earlier, which was around systems thinking, ecosystem analysis, trying to navigate different stakeholders in a space, and relationship building. So I used a lot of those skills to try to understand the community in which I wanted to start this new venture, to really try to figure out who are the various stakeholders, who are the various players, who are ultimately my clients and customers, but who are also the influencers in the space. That's a lot of what I did and as part of my international work. And so I've been pleasantly surprised by the number of times I've used those skills that I honed over the course of 2+ decades, but in a very local way, right? So in the community that I'm in currently, but also just trying to figure out who else is operating in this space and how do I start to build relationships with those people. I have come to realize, and this isn't necessarily something new in Montgomery County, but a lot of many of things, especially for business owners, really is dependent on having relationships and having relationships with many different players in the space, but also with just a lot of moving parts. So I continue to hone those skills, but I'm very glad that I have many years to sort of lean on in terms of that experience.
For me, in my job, I wore a lot of different hats. I was a relationship builder. I was involved in communications. It was just so many different things. Many of those things were in my subject matter expertise and my direct purview, but a lot of them I did because I was asked to do them. I wanted to be a team player. I wanted to help out and get the job done. And so while for me, it was just like, we have to do this, we got to get this done, those skills are what I'm using now, whether it was marketing or, like you said, Manal, relationship building, just all those different things. Because especially as a solopreneur, you're the IT person, you're the budget person, you're the everything, and so it's amazing to be able to draw on all of those skills and bring them together. And this time to apply to something that I'm really interested in and that I'm building and developing the vision for. And so all of those skills that you developed in your previous career, you will continue to use those and expand on them. So it's not lost. Just keep that confidence and that inspiration.
Yeah, no, that's great. So if I can bring you back to maybe October, November, when you first heard about Founders Rising, you were thinking about applying. What did you think that you needed at the time to be successful? And since then, has that changed? You know, is it different from what you realized you actually needed towards the end of the program or today?
So for me, I thought I needed a very crystal clear idea of what my business should be, a fleshed out idea. And so when I applied, I thought I provided what I thought was my great idea. However, what I found out that I needed was really the community and the support. Because to be honest, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I wanted to do this. I needed to do something. And so having this community of women who were in the same situation as me, understood what it felt to be in the situation, was really, and also Karen and Dahlia and Martha, very understanding and supportive. All of the people who participate in the program just really did their best to lift us up and keep us going. And we also continue to try to lift each other up and keep going. So to me, that was the part that I didn't know I needed. There was a lot of other knowledge that, fill the gap, things I didn't realize I didn't know, but really it's the community I think that has been the most impactful for me.
I share Bridget's sentiment. I really thought I needed to come in with a lot of clarity, right? So what my business was going to be about, how I was going to move it forward, what I was going to do. I had already registered the LLC last summer, but I had spent a lot of time doing basic market research and customer discovery last summer and in the fall. And so when I had applied, I knew a few pieces, but I also didn't know what I didn't know. And so, but I thought I really had to come with a crystallized idea or crystallized business plan even. So I was happy to find out that a lot of other people were in the same boat as I was, right? So all of us were former feds or Fed adjacent, which really I think made our community different in that we had experience with something last year, even if it was across the federal government in very different types of entities. But what brought us together was this like shift we were making. Some of our cohort members actually were still working for the federal government, right? Or with contractors. And so they were trying to start a business and still were employed, but many of us had lost our jobs. So I think it was that combined with the entrepreneurial spirit, the willingness to do something courageous and brave and different and just put ourselves out there. I would say many of us are probably closer to the last third of our professional journeys, right? And not necessarily early career or even mid-career. So that too, I think served as a way of bonding with others who were like, okay, let's do this together. And so I think it was nice that, okay, I didn't have to have all the answers. And in fact, I learned more just by being sort of open to the experts that came in, all the resources that MWBC through its own team, but also connections to other resources provided for us was really one of the biggest advantages.
That's great. Okay, I want both of you to kind of mentally take yourself back to, and for everyone in the meeting, they were they were part of an 8-week cohort. And one of the pieces of feedback that we got was, that's too short. Can you please expand it? So now everyone here in the meeting, you're going to benefit from their knowledge and their experience, and it's now going to be a 12-week program. So we're going to have more time to build relationships, to gain that knowledge, to delve into things. But I want to take you guys back. Is there a moment from the program that you still think about for any reason? It could be it could be an aha moment. It could be a funny moment. It could be something really meaningful. Is there something when somebody says Founders Rising to you? What is the thing that pops into your mind of like, that's what I identify with?
Bridget, is it okay if I go first? Yeah. For me, I have to say I have a few aha moments, a few memorable moments, but it really came down to the pitch competition. And you all can't see behind me, but I have a life-size check because I was in the pitch competition and I was awarded first place, first prize. And so that was such a huge moment for me personally and professionally. Just I felt like it was the culmination of just months and months of work, but also it just forced me to do something I was really nervous about. I was really kind of scared to do. I have given, speeches in big spaces with lots of people before as part of my first career. But a 3-minute pitch competition was just one of the most nerve-wracking things I did. And it was actually a very, very helpful, useful, meaningful experience for me. I would also say, Karen mentioned earlier, Tamika Montgomery came and spoke to us in session 2. And I will not forget what she talked about, which was starting with the problem and not the solution, right? What makes the problem real? And then how do you get to know your A customer or your A client? And then the marketing session, which came just a few sessions later, actually really piggybacked on that by talking to us about like, how do you know about your customer? What do you do to find out more about your ideal customer? And then providing really good tips and advice around messaging formulas. So that sort of way of thinking in terms of customer discovery, but also like hyper focus on the problem and not the solution. Let go of the solution for now, I think was quite pivotal for me. And I still think about that quite a lot.
Yes, that was exactly on my mind too. That session with Tamika is kind of like, whoa, pause. Okay, let me think this through. Okay, I'm okay. But it did cause us to kind of, or me, to kind of stop and really think about it. And it's good because it also gives you an opportunity to determine whether or not you need to shift. So it's all good. The other thing was in our first session, there was a person who I think he had worked for the State Department and had been ripped, and he had totally pivoted and he was operating a food truck and selling sausages, German sausages or something like that. And so it was just enlightening to see him. He was okay after going through all of this. He was okay pivoting to something totally different for his career, and he was fine. And that was just like I said, it was just so inspiring to see. The other thing, and this might be kind of weird. So we had this class about doing the marketing research, and so I went to the universities of Shady Grove because we had one of the librarians. I don't know if she's like if librarian is the right word, but she had spoken to us about it. And so I was there doing my research and I got on WhatsApp and I was like, hey, does anybody want me to pull some information from you? And some folks were like, yeah, or oh, I need to go, or maybe I can meet you there. And so just again, that community of just trying to help each other out as best that we could was just like I was glad to be a part of that. So those also came to mind as well. But definitely the sausages because he brought some in, which was nice.
No, I think that's exactly right. I mean, there's nothing, and frankly, that's also why I wanted to bring the two of you here, because there's nothing that takes the place from hearing from somebody who was really building it, and what it means to pivot from, in his case, I used to run multi-million-dollar programs, and now I have a food truck and I handcraft German sausages. And by the way, sometimes I take not the food truck, but sometimes I also have a plowing contract at Dulles Airport. And his conversation about what that meant to him as a person, you know, and that huge shift of identity and career, I think was a really eye-opening moment, especially in that very first day that we all had together, right? Um, so I'm keeping an eye on time, and I have noticed a couple of really interesting questions in the chat. So I want to pivot just a little bit and ask a couple of questions. So one person asked, did either of you have to adjust your original idea or plans during or after the program? What do you think?
Oh, for me, yes, I would say so. Not a lot. So when I came into the program, I wasn't 100% clear where I wanted to go. And so so the program did help me get some direction, but this is one of the things I think you have to be careful as a beginning entrepreneur. There's so many different directions to go. And so sometimes you just have to cut out the noise and just focus and test out the waters. So I would say yes, and I'm still learning and trying to figure it out.
I didn't necessarily change my original idea or concept, but I had to really think through my revenue generation strategy. And I think when the time came and we had to really develop out our business plans, especially for those of us who were applying for the pitch competition, it forced me to really run the numbers, to really think about the feasibility of one of my revenue streams versus another that had been secondary. And since then, even I've had to adjust further given some of the economic impacts of where I live. So I would say, I stuck with the concept but there were moments of tweaks and moments of reconsideration of certain strategies or ways in which I was going to move forward. I did take a pause. I did step back and I said, okay, I think for what I want to do and where I want to go, I might have to do this in the interim. And then that will, I think, the long game would benefit by just taking the moment to do this. Because I think as Bridget was saying, I mean, certainly your day can get filled and suddenly, what used to be an 8-hour day is now a 12 to 14-hour day because there's just so much to do and there's so much to do all the time. There's just also a lot of noise. So how can you keep that focus, prioritize, and hone in on the thing that at the end of the day, because we're all starting businesses, is really going to bring in the money, right? It's going to generate revenue, make you profitable as a company, as a business, and then put you on the pathway of growing your business.
Great. Okay. I want to take Angus's question, and a little broad, but I think could be really helpful for people to hear. What do you think the program has helped you with the most?
I would say the foundations of building a successful business. I thought you needed to have a business plan and some capital, but there's a lot more to it. One of those things, which is a good bookkeeping, which I learned as part of this program, I do not like to do, and I need help with that. So that's the other things you will also learn is like where your strengths are and maybe where it will be helpful just to get help from that. So it's really the foundations, and you will learn things like bail, was it banker, accountant, bank account, accountant, insurance, legal, like all those things are really helpful. And so it's really the foundations of a successful business is what I really learned and helped me.
I would say something similar. Exactly. It's the basics of starting up a business, developing a business. It's the skills and the knowledge that help you move in a certain direction, right? So I had heard about the Bail team because I had been to numerous MWBC workshops and webinars, and they had sort of a boot camp last summer. And I'd been working with them for a while, but there were other, I think, technical areas or business development areas that I hadn't been exposed to. And so those were great in terms of giving me a flavor. And then it was a signal to me that I need to go do some more research. I would also say that, it was our group as well. Like for us, Karen mentioned, we still keep in touch regularly. Some of us got together last week in person and said, well, this is an opportunity to give each other real-time feedback on whatever someone is struggling with. So we did like a demo. Everyone brought something, whether it's the newest pamphlet for your business. I'm doing tabling with the young people I'm collaborating with. So I just wanted to get some feedback from my peers. And we all took a little bit of time And that group, right, has been sort of this support system that as a solopreneur, especially, on days when you're lacking motivation, you're lacking energy, you feel burnt out, you feel not sure about this thing you've decided to do, right? Or just these wonderful people that you can turn to and lean on, whether it's in the group setting or even just one-on-one, because we're all going through it together. And so that I think has been incredibly rewarding and one of the highlights, the bright spots of the program, I think.
That's great. Okay, I'm going to toss one last question at you guys. If you could go back in time, you're sitting there thinking about applying, maybe you're on the fence, what would you tell yourself about applying to the program or getting the most out of the program?
I can answer the second part of that. I would tell myself to set aside more time to do the work. I think with everything that happens in the startup phase or the early phase of a business, I just thought I could sort of squeeze this in, get it done. And usually it was the night before one of our sessions, or maybe it was the early morning of. But had I think, set aside more time, had I really made the effort to connect more with our cohort during that time, again, it's been one of, like, I think the highlights. But for me personally, if I had done some of that more real time, and cut out the noise that was taking up a disproportionate amount of time in my day, I think I could have gotten more out of it. So I think the 3 hours that's been approximated in terms of work outside of the actual sessions is reasonable. It's worth it. I would go back in time and just put something on my calendar and really focus in on, okay, in this session, we heard from, so and so, and they talked about this. How am I going to actually now, make that a practical reality? What do I need to do to apply what I learned or the tools I was given as the next part in my business development? So definitely, yeah, building in more time in my schedule.
All right, Bridget, what about you?
I would say if I was back in, was it October or whenever it was, and on the fence, I would say, what have you got to lose? Do it. All you have is to gain. Um, Even though, just it costs a little bit of an investment, but what you will get out of it far exceeds whatever monetary investment or even, time, because this is not just a, one and done. The effects continue, especially as you have this relationships with your cohort, relationships with Karen and Dahlia and Martha and the Maryland Women's Business Center overall. So it opens doors. And so for me, just with the pitch that Manal was talking about earlier, I did the pitch too. And the only reason why I did it was because I just said to myself, what do I have to lose? Why not? Why not you? So just do it. If you're not sure, but you think, just apply anyway. It doesn't hurt you to apply. I think someone said it only takes 30 minutes to apply. Just do it, because the gift that you get out of it will just be, it'll be so great. You'll be glad that you did it.
All right, Bridget, Manal, thank you so, so much for coming here today, to sharing some insights, taking me back in time to the first cohort. As we kind of transition to the second portion of our session, I do just want to highlight, I have seen a couple of questions here, kind of getting specific about, hey, what's the content? Did we talk about social media as part of marketing? So maybe some more specific questions around eligibility and things like that. So the couple of things that I'll mention there. Oh, and I did also see a question earlier on. I think it got answered in the chat of, can men apply? Yes, absolutely. It is kind of my standing joke whenever I go talk in a room, is that yes, I'm here with the Maryland Women's Business Center, but we work with all entrepreneurs. So if there are any fellas out there in the room or watching this recording later, we very much welcome you to apply. And Social media is a piece of what we touch on in the marketing and storytelling unit that we have. It's not the whole focus, but yes, social media is certainly a part of marketing. So folks, I hope we got to as many questions. I hope we got to your question specifically. If we didn't, please let us know ping us in the chat, and we'll do our best. But Manal, Bridget, thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys sharing your insights. And folks in the audience, thank you for some great questions.